Shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Makakodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do rule well and teach this truth in all honesty and sincerity. Salutations to you brothers around the four corners of the earth that's pushing this truth in all diligence and all sincerity, risking your lives and freedom to do so. Well, I just wanted to get into a lesson on wisdom and how it's more valuable than riches, and no other king or person to delve into that and to show is King Solomon, which was the wisest man to ever live, and how the Most High showed him the wonders of the world, the mysteries of the earth, and how he was blessed beyond measure because what he valued was wisdom. I'm gonna start in 1 Kings chapter 3 and verse 5. And it reads, in Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and Yahweh said, ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee, and thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord, my power, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father. And I am but a little child, I know not how to go out or come in. I'm gonna jump to verse. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Verse 8. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And Yahweh said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked for riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemy, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy word. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise unto thee, like unto thee. So he will be the wisest man to know these things and to be able to judge correctly. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee in all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandment as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days. So, King Solomon didn't ask for riches or for his enemies to be slain or, carnal things. He asked for spiritual gifts, the spirit of discernment, and wisdom, and to know how to judge the people, and that pleased the Lord. So he gave him the things that he asked for plus what he didn't ask for, because it pleased the Lord. And an example, I'm gonna hop down to verse 16 to show how um, Solomon used that wisdom and a spirit of discernment to make a right judgment. And in these days, especially in Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, aka America, the bitter place, judgment is looked down upon. To judge is you're seen as a bad person for judging. But everything requires judgment. The scriptures say a righteous man judges all things by the Spirit. And this place will have you not judge anything at all. Just accept everything and, be lukewarm, basically. You look down upon if you judge a person. But everybody judges. Even if you don't think you're judging. You judge if it's safe to cross the street or not. You judge, oh, should I wear a rain, get an umbrella? It might rain. That's still judgment. But judging people is that's something that's so looked down upon in this society. But this is 1 Kings chapter 3 and verse 16. Then came there two women that were harlots unto the king and stood before him. And the one woman said, O Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also. And we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. And this woman child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I arose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. So they arguing over who child was dead and whose was alive. And that goes to show that it was women. It was an honor for a woman to be born a child, to bear a child, man, by a man. That was something. You see what the lengths that they going to have a living son. But in these days, women will abort, kill their child, to avoid a responsibility or whatever the case may be. They don't really uphold being a mother. They'll say that, but their actions don't show that they show a high regard for being a mother. Most women in this society will have a baby for a check, or to basically oppress the man. Abortion is in a high rate in this society called America. So, totally different from women in the ancient days. You was looked down upon if you didn't bear a child to a man, because that was a woman's creation role. But Continuing, verse 23. Then said the king, the one said, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other said, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other. and this is where King Solomon's wisdom comes into play. Verse 26. Then spake the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, Oh, my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of Yahweh was in him to do judgment. So he basically used cunning wisdom to basically find out who was the liar and find out the truth. And in these days, using good judgment will have you looked down upon by these idiots out here, man. They don't understand a damn thing, man. And I'm gonna skip to Second Chronicles and show like how highly regarded Solomon was for that judgment that went across the land, and everybody wanted to be wanted to know him, man, and wanted to bring him gifts for being righteous and judging accordingly. This is Second Chronicles chapter 9. I'm gonna start at verse 20. And all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. And that's another thing. Our people are used to fine things, man. Jewelry and just the finer things, because that's what we were set up to be, the kings, the righteous kings of the earth. And that's why Jake got that type of swag, man. You know, the costly apparel, the earrings, the jewelry, necklaces. And King Solomon wore that. King Solomon had a grill, man, if you could believe it, you know. As the scriptures say, but he was a decked out king, man. His house had gold in it. and we come from that, you know. But we just in a lower state right now that has been stripped of us, but it's still in our spirit to be decked out like that. None were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Huram. Every 3 years once came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. And King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that Yahweh had put in his heart. And another thing that Hiram, King Solomon hired Hiram to go to America, to the western part of the world before it was America or anything, the land of Uz, I believe the scriptures call it, to get the peacock and apes and the redwood tree and different things to bring it back to build temples and things like that. So Solomon had knowledge of that part of the world that no one was venturing to. And these Freemasons or whatever, they worship Hiram Abiff, which was a Hamite, because they say he was a master mason or whatever. I don't, get into all that wicked stuff, but yeah, he was under Solomon, who had all the wisdom, who knew how to build and how to, So it just showed that today these people are lost, man. These people just don't got it. But verse 24, Salakia. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold and raiment, harness and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem, and he reigned over all kings from the river even unto the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. And the king made silver in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar trees made he the sycamore trees as the sycamore trees that are in the low plains in abundance. And they brought unto Solomon horses out of Egypt and out of all lands. But yeah, he was very wealthy, man. He was very wealthy. And that's what the Lord bestowed upon him, because he wanted wisdom above all things, man. I'm gonna hop over to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9. I'm gonna start at verse 9. And wisdom was with thee, which knoweth thy works, and was present when thou madest the world, and knew what was acceptable in thy sight, and right in thy commandments. O send her out of thy holy heavens, and from the throne of thy glory, that being present she may labor with me, that I may know what is pleasing unto thee. For she showeth and understandeth all things, and she shall lead me soberly in my doings, and preserve me in her power. So shall my works be acceptable, and then shall I judge thy people righteously, and be worthy to sit in my father's seat. So Solomon was all about trying to please the Most High, man. Trying to have wisdom lead him. Verse 13. For what man is he that can know the counsel of Yahweh? Or who can think what the will of the Lord is? For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices are but uncertain. For the corruptible body presses down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle, which is the body, weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. And hardly do we guess aright at things that are upon earth, and with labor do we find the things that are before us. But the things that are in heaven, who hath searched out? And thy counsel, who hath known, except thou give wisdom, and send thy Holy Spirit from above? For so the ways of them which lived on the earth were reformed, and men were taught the things that are pleasing unto thee, and were saved through wisdom. And yeah. So wisdom is sent from above, from the Most High, on whom he chooses. Well, I'm gonna jump back to 1 Kings chapter 9, and I'm gonna start at verse 22. This is the rule that Solomon had over the people, just how much authority he had from given to him by the power of Yahweh. But the children of Israel did Solomon not make no bondmen, so he didn't have his people in servitude or slavery. But they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots, and his horsemen. These were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's works, 550, which bare rule over the people that wrought in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house which Solomon had built for her. Then did he build Milo, and 3 times a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord. And he burnt incense upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house, and King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. So it was King Solomon that sent Hiram them over there to gather things and materials from other parts of the world that no one had known. Like, yeah. Yeah. But in Solomon's old age, he started getting weak for his women, man. And we'll get into that. This is 1 Kings chapter 11, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, and strange is out the women not of the 12 tribes of Israel. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. So that was why the Most High said, don't deal with the women of the other nations. And but we know they can be concubines, and not considered wives, because a wife would be treated above a concubine. A wife will get your possessions if you pass on. A concubine wouldn't really get nothing. And Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. So King Solomon didn't go off for having wives because he was a king. He could, in Deuteronomy, I believe the scripture says, if he get another wife, the first one, her raiment and her food shall he not diminish. And it's talking about if you have another wife, you still got to do for the first one, and you have to do for what you do for one, you got to do for them all. And King Solomon had the substance to take care of all his women, to house them, to make sure they was fed and clothed, and properly taken care of. So that's not the issue of having the wives. It's how you have to be able to take care of them equally. And the problem with these strange women was that they were into other things. They were into worshiping other gods. But you have, I think it was Ruth that was a Moabite, and she left from the gods of her fathers and her people, to follow the Israelite customs. And she went through that whole process, shaving her head bald, and it's a process. It's a thing you have to do, basically, to humble yourself down. But continuing verse 4, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his power, and was the heart of David his father, as was the heart of David his father, Salakia. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. So that's where it mentions that Solomon done evil by going after, by building these altars to these different gods of his concubines and wives. Verse 7, then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, the Chinese, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon, the Japanese, as they're known as today. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord power of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Solomon's heart was turned away, man. And what's some of these ways that these women of today can turn you away from the Lord? Wanting these threesomes and carrying on, with which that god of Baal was a god of sexual immorality. Lord willing, we'll get to do a video on that today. Another way, just indulging in different foods, because these other nations have a different diet than the Israelites. We can't eat a lot of this stuff that these heathens eat, and if we do, we have consequences for it. High blood pressure, diabetes, all kind of stuff go wrong with our body. You know, what's another way? Uh, uh hell, uh, uh rocking mixed fabrics. That's against the scriptures, and not what Israelites are supposed to do. But back then we had it to where we could make our own fabrics and our own clothing. Um, just any form of worshiping another power or a god besides Yahweh. And so that so but Solomon was the wisest man to live, and he got that wisdom because of his prayer to the Most High. And don't let these women stir you away from the way of the Lord, man. They real cunning, man. They real crafty, and a lot of these women is witches out here, and now they willingly admitting it. So hope that has been a edifying lesson. And with that, I'm gonna say shalom and a baba ball.